Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Man, today we're going to bring some music to our ears because we're going to talk to my friend Martin, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things, including really how to overcome some really life-changing things when you want to follow the things you love to do. How are you doing today, Martin?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
So I always have my guests introduce themselves. What some of your story. So
Mm,
it's not you don't have to tell us everything, but your story was so impactful. I remember when I read your profile to
right.
about overcoming. Right now, you've had lots of surgeries. You've had what led you to all that. So let's ask the first question is,
Yeah.
well, introduce yourself. We'll start there.
Sure. So my name is Martin Mayr. I'm a neoclassical concert pianist and composer based out of Canada. I've been writing and performing for going on now 30 years, and my career took off at the after the age of 18 when I took a $35,000 bet on myself to self-produce my first concert, have it filmed, have it recorded. We did the live album with that, and the whole idea was that I wanted to get noticed in Canada and North America. That didn't happen. What ended up happening was there was a performing arts agency in China that had listened to my music and found me through my website, and then invited me on a 16 city concert tour of some of the most incredible places that I'd been. And I hadn't been anywhere like that before. I had just done this one concert, and all of a sudden I was on billboards and getting mobbed for autographs and getting police escorts and all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
So that was in 2001. So that started my career in Asia. And we fast forward sort of to the height of everything. 2019 concert tour was 20 cities in 30 days, which was
Ooh,
pretty grueling on its
wow.
own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm coming home from the tour, and the hotel shuttle bus slams on the brakes, and I fly hands forward into my luggage. I dislocate my
Oh
left
my God.
pinky. I sprain my right fourth, and I think to myself, "Okay, that was a great tour, and the career is over." That
Sure.
started 4.5 years of 21 specialists, 233 appointments, a major surgery to get back to even a semblance of the life that I had. And the height of all of this was during COVID. So I was running into the medical system at a time where everybody's closing their doors, and it's like, yeah, we can't help you. So it went from on top of the world, from concert halls to hospital walls, and now I'm on the other side of it. And part of the reason that I wanted to share my story is because two things. One is there is a stigma in our industry that if you're hurt, that you can't come back from it. I am proof that you can. And the other is a fellow New Yorker of yours shared her story on NBC News, having gone through a similar thing. Wasn't getting any sort of answers from doctors until she found one that was able to help her and changed how she played and how she held her body. And it was when she shared her story and I was able to connect with her and her doctors that changed the direction of my own treatment. So by me sharing my story, I could do that for somebody else, then it will have all been worth it.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll be worth it for you in a bunch of different ways. But yeah, it's passing those messages out there.
Yeah.
Recently I had a heart scare, and because I had watched a TV show, Good Morning
Mm-hmm.
America, talking
Mm-hmm.
about some of that, one of the anchors, Sam Champion, was talking about his heart scare, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Guys, you have to check." So I
Yeah.
I, I Googled the cardiologist, blah blah blah. 2 weeks later, I had a stent
Yeah.
put in, and
Wow.
and since then
Okay.
I've reduced 17 pounds. And again, I'm just 2 months out, but
Yeah.
you got to be the message, right? So you
Yeah.
never know where that message goes, and that's why when I can mention it, I mention it. But yeah, you want to be one of those points of light that there's always a point of light by having that voice,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that I love saying. One of the quotes that I enjoy so much is you save one person in the world, you save the world. The,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
impact, it's that butterfly effect of how things going.
Well,
But
and the thing is that you never know who's listening or what their story is, right? And so we're having this conversation, and somebody that is listening might say, "Hey, I've been feeling this sort of discomfort in my
Yeah.
chest. Maybe I should get it checked out." And it's just one of those things that you never know who's listening, you never know who's paying attention. And I know that certainly through a lot of it, there were a lot of lessons that I learned that I now inherit and want to pass on. And so it's a pleasure to be able to do that with you here today.
Yeah, it's that learned experience that when I help people write books and things like that, I'm like, I why I can help you that much quicker is because I've already done it. It's
Yeah.
like much like if you were going to teach me to play the piano, I'd be clunky at the beginning, but because you already knew one how to do it really exceptionally well, not just really well, um, you're able to then transfer the skill set, how you did it, and
Hmm.
some of those things. I mean, that's where we all grow and through our stories and why I love the podcast because of those stories of resilience. So
Hmm.
you said you had, what was it, 233
Yep. Medical
surgeries.
appointments. No,
Yeah.
233 medical appointments. Let's
Oh, okay. I thought it was
not surgeries.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So medical
Yeah.
appointments. Okay, which is
Yeah.
which is still an awful lot. Okay, so
It is.
either
Yeah.
way, right? If you think of 365 days is one full year,
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And of course, the worst things that could have done is your hands, right? As a pianist, you know, just want to make sure everybody understands that. So he damaged, different fingers, which adds
Yeah.
a completely level of everything. As you said in your business previously, not everybody comes back from that.
They don't, and for me it was even a simple thing like lifting a teacup became impossible, right?
Mm.
And you consider how much we are on our phones and whatnot. There was a like a year after I came back from that accident and came home, and they did X-rays and MRIs, and the hand specialist said, "Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll do physio and keep playing and all this sort of stuff," and they give you medication to help with the pain. What they don't tell you, though, and what they don't teach you, though, is that the medication that they give you cuts off the signals of the pain that is there. The pain is still there, your brain just can't receive it. And
Mm.
so I just kept playing like nothing had happened. And then when they start weaning you off of it, you start feeling some of that pain in little bits. And by the time you're off the medication, the pain is just through the roof. And so a year later, I basically woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning feeling like somebody had taken a sledgehammer to both of my hands. And that was at the point where it's just like, okay, this something is still wrong. And you go through the hand specialist and they say, well, this particular one can help you. Okay, thank you. Next. You go to the next one. That one says, well, they already did the testing, so I can't do anything here. Then you go to the third one that goes, okay, well, let's look further up because the issue isn't in the hands. That then starts, then starts to move you in different directions, right? And so it's one of those things that it wasn't just could I play piano? I couldn't cook, I couldn't drive, I couldn't shop for groceries, I couldn't hold a teacup. I was constantly going like this, like just holding my hands, not wanting to use them, almost protecting them to make sure that that they were okay. And now on the other side of it, do I still have some discomfort every now and then? Sure, but that doesn't have anything to do with the accident as much as it is now I'm rebuilding the muscle and the body that I lost,
Mm.
and retraining the muscles to work in a different way. Because when you play for as long as I have, you start forgetting some of the things that in the lessons they like. Yeah, sure, sit up straight is how you're supposed to, and that's fine for one song, but you can't hold your body like that for 2 hours on stage and then walk off and be like, oh yeah, everything is fine. You don't have to stretch. You do have to. And one of the things that the hand therapist said to me is that we as musicians should be considered elite athletes because of the way that we work with our bodies, right? We spend hours practicing, we spend hours playing. Think of a simple thing if you go to the symphony, a conductor. You can easily say, in layman's terms, well, all they're doing is waving their hands. Yes, but how many muscles are they using? And how consistent do they have to be with that movement and everything like that? That takes a lot of use of the body and muscles. And I didn't know this until I became part of that statistic. But anywhere between 51 to 76% of all musicians are playing in some level of pain
Mm.
before, during, after, or a combination of all of them. So for simple math, let's say you go to the symphony, there's an 80-piece symphony there and a 20-piece choir. That's 100 people, right? Anywhere between half to three-quarters of those people are in some level of discomfort on that stage, and
That
nobody's talking about it. And the
Yeah, no,
reason we
that's
don't
incredible
talk
to
about
think of it that way. I've been to the orchestra many times, and
it, yeah,
you don't think about, it's like even the ballet as well. I have a cousin who does that, and the obviously that's much more physical, right? You could see the physicality versus, some of the other, like you're just sitting, right? Your arms are just going there. Could you
mhm,
imagine having to stand there? I mean, my daughter played the viola, and I remember those things. Every little movement changes something.
yeah. Yeah, and there's a really great image that I'd seen years ago where it was a ballet dancer, the 2 feet sort of side by side,
Hmm.
and you see them with the one shoe on, and the other one is a cross diagram of what the foot looks like on the inside, and it's bloodied and bruised and taped up
Yep.
and all of this sort of stuff. There are people that are playing with kinesio tape that are taped up their arms or their shoulders or things like that to to keep them playing and to keep them working. And a lot of them are playing through pain and then going and getting, corticosteroid or cortisone shots into their fingers or their arms, and we never know about it.
Right.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of things, that we just don't know because we're
yeah,
not in that world, or we don't do it, right? We just come, like, even movie, when you're watching a movie,
yeah,
people who are in pain and things like that. So how how did it even, so after your accident, and as you're managing some of the pain and things like that, it had to go through your mind that you might lose the one thing that at that time you identified yourself with.
yeah. It was this before, but every single time that I have to sort of relive that or rethink that, it's almost like, okay, take a big breath. You're not there anymore. But the trauma from it is still there,
Sure,
right?
yeah, I can't imagine.
The notion that um, when you think about losing a loved one, um, there's a certain level of fear and loss and grief and everything like that. That is the same when you're put in a position of, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this again,
Mm.
right? But for me, it was scaled back even to the point of like, even just holding up this coffee cup was was excruciating. And how long is this going to last? Is it permanent? What sort of surgery is going to be required for it? Is there a surgery for it? What does the other side of that look like? At one point, it was so anxiety inducing that I essentially had to step back and go, okay, I'm not going to worry about getting back on stage or playing the piano or anything else. I just have to step back enough to go, okay, can I get reasonably out of being in pain?
Mm.
Can I go back to just being a human being, right? Pain free, living my life, enjoying life. Because there were days where I'd be sitting and watching a movie and almost feeling like I want, either give you medication that is so strong that you're in this non-functioning fog and the pain is gone. And the side effects from those are just absolutely brutal. Or the alternative is that you have a lower version of that, but you still have that certain level of pain that is sitting there with you, and you can't enjoy it because it's almost like, um, the old school TV when the programming went away and you'd have that snow channel that,
Yeah.
right? That's what it felt like inside my brain all the time. That constant level of it just at some point I was like, okay, just put the music aside, put the piano aside, get on the other side of just being pain free.
Mm.
Then worry about rebuilding the rest of it after that. And the best way that my pain specialist told me about that is, if you want to go mountain ready for that, you have to start smaller. You have to do a hill, then you have to do a medium hill, then you have to do a larger one. and then you have to do, indoor climbing or whatever to sort of build it up. I had to literally strip back everything of who I knew about myself and who I was and go, okay, I'm Martin, the human being, the guy that just wants to be out of pain and to enjoy life. And that was so difficult because it was essentially allowing part of myself to disappear. And it was like hanging a suit jacket up in a closet that you go and you lock the door and you don't know if you're gonna ever go back and use it. And thankfully, I can play again and be back at it. But it just took so much determination and relentless grit to, come out the other side of this.
Yeah, well, that's part of that resilience. You don't know when it's going to end. It's not, you don't see if that's where it's frustrating because you don't see the finish line. It's not like, okay, take five more steps, like
Yeah,
in a running race. Five more steps, you're at the finish line. You can
yeah,
see it. You don't know where it is, and being in pain, definitely distracts you, right? While distraction of just being injured and not being able to perform the way that you had previously is something, but being in pain, that's a separate distraction that
yeah,
you're not even worried that, okay, if I could perform that way, but I'm in pain, that becomes a different set of circumstances as well.
yeah. It's that sort of companion that you don't want around that is around all the time. You don't know how to get rid of them.
Sure.
Um, it's yeah.
So how did you mentally prepare yourself to get through? I mean, again, I know you're an elite pianist, so there's a different mindset to be able to do that, to practice and to get to that level. It's not just okay, he played the right, you know, music. It was more along the lines of that mindset. So how did that mindset help you through this?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I can't say that it did. And the reason for that is because none of the things that I knew were working.
Mm,
None of the specialists that I was going to. I mean, I saw three different types of neurologists and rheumatologists and physical therapists and chiropractors and you name it, whatever pain specialist that there was. I went to go see, three of each kind because people didn't know. And when you talk about that whole thing of like, well, it's five more steps until the finish line, there wasn't even any sort of a notion that there was one. It was like stepping onto a football field and it's just fog all around, and you start walking and you think, oh, I'm going to hit the other side, and there's no, you can't see anything, and nobody's even telling you which direction to go.
right.
So I didn't have any tools to help with that. The only thing that I could rely on was the notion of like, okay, and believe me, there were times where I just wanted to give up, and my loving spouse of 20 years wouldn't let me, and neither would some of the doctors that I said, look, just let me go. This is it. It became almost to the point where it was too much to bear, to the
Sure.
point that it was, if I cross off all of these specialists and nobody has an answer, then my answer is walking through a door that allows me to leave on my own terms.
Mm.
Um, there, there are things in music and there are things in business that you can know and understand, but it was this having to be so extremely was so hugely impactful. I remember one day showing up at the emergency room because my left arm felt like it was like on fire.
Mm.
And they said, well, we can't solve this for you. It's like, I'm not asking you to solve it for me. What I'm asking for is a CT scan or an MRI to see if there's something that's going on. So I had to become my own Dr. House and
Mm.
really know everything inside and out. If these are the tests that we've done, these are the things that have worked, this is what hasn't worked, this medication worked, that didn't. So that I was coming to the table in, because like I said, this is during the height of COVID. There's doctors that are petrified out of their mind They're losing colleagues left, right, and center. They're losing patients that were fully healthy, and now they've got a guy that is coming in and saying, "I can't play piano." It's like, well, that's not really our priority, man. Um, but it was finding those right people. It was finding those right people that said, "Look, I can to help you, and if I don't know, then I'm going to put you in touch with this person because they're the leading pain specialist in Canada." And so it was the only thing that I could really do was just trust people. None of the training and none of the things that I'd done in music could have prepared me for that because it was just completely a different beast. I had to let all of that go. Everything that I learned, everything that I practiced, everything that I'd put together, my entire existence and being was like, okay, I'm putting my life and my well-being into your hands.
Right, because it's a unique set, there's definitely a unique set of circumstances, timing of the world, as well as the injuries, and and then you started getting symptoms that nobody, that weren't logical to,
Yeah.
to a hand injury, but then there was other things that you came through. So how did you push through? So while your training, musical training might not have, you still had to push through.
Like I said, my my loving spouse would there's a certain level of um, resilience and strength that we don't know that we have until you're literally pushed to the point where it's like you can't just give up, you have to fight, right? um, there's a certain innate nature where parents will protect their children, where a mother might not be strong, but if her child looks like it's going to get kidnapped or attacked, there's all of a sudden adrenaline that sort of floods the body, and you got to jump into that mode. I think there was something that between the love that I had at home and support from friends and family, that allowed me to go, okay, at some point somebody's going to figure this out, right? And when you start seeing the small bits of light of, okay, so this works here and, that works there. And it's like, okay, so we're moving somewhere. And then you get to somebody saying, okay, we know what this is and we know what the solution is and it involves surgery and we can do it in 3 months and you'll do physiotherapy after and everything will be fine. And the minute that lands, you almost want to go, oh, thank God, it's
Right.
all over. But then you still have to get to the surgery. And then you have to get on the other side. And you go, okay, I've had the surgery and I made it. Now physiotherapy and now it's going back to playing. Comes something that you don't expect. After which destroyed the rest of my mental health that had been holding me together.
Mm,
So it
mm.
was the entire vanished and eroded mentally, and that was too much. And then you rely again on the same people that got you to that point to go, okay, so this is how we're going to get you out of it, and this treatment will work for that. And it was there's that thing of um, I certainly didn't expect that type of gut punch. um, I think I have a lot more tools now for really anything. It's like somebody says, "Oh, your favorite show is canceled." Yeah, okay. So, before it's like, "No, what do you mean?" Um, uh, it's resilience and grit and determination and all that sort of stuff. Is I think the answer to your question is we are a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for.
Sure.
But you almost have to be pushed in a certain direction, pushed far enough before you go, okay, enough is enough. I'm actually going to fight, right?
Yeah, and that's really where you get determined and see the type of resilience that you find within yourself, because if we would have said something like that before the accident, you would have been like, oh, I don't know how I'll get through it, but you have when you have no other options,
Hmm.
you have to figure out a way,
Yeah.
and that's where the resilience really comes into. So, um, can we talk about China and how China the part of your career that was going so well and that you're rebuilding now, so well, and that you're now. So before our little gremlin cruising, I wanted to, hear. Well, I guess let's. So you've gone through all this,
Yeah.
and you've learned not only how to deal with possibly losing something that you cared greatly about. What would you suggest to somebody else? Not even somebody who wasn't magician, but a musician either. Uh,
Ta-da.
yeah, no, a musician. When you have the opportunity that you might lose something that you care so greatly about, or your life is in the balance.
That's yeah. If you asked me that many years ago, I would say I don't have the faintest idea
Mhm.
because I'm going through it myself. What I would say now is you, whatever it is, you have to put your faith and entire being and belonging into the trust of somebody else. And that can be brutally difficult to do, especially if it's somebody that you don't know, that has never met you before, that doesn't know your history, that doesn't know how important and valuable whatever this is to you. Um, for me, what it became was this person doesn't know the answer, fine, next. This person doesn't know the answer, fine, next. It was about finding the right people that became my team. And that was the team that when I said, you know what, forget it, I'm done. I don't want any more injections. I don't want any more needles. I don't want any more tests or anything like that. Um, these doctors would call me at 9 o'clock at night and just talk with me for an hour.
Mm.
Or in one of my lowest points, my pain specialist just put everything down and asked the nurse to leave and just sat with me, and allowed me to cry and vent and things like that. You have to find the right people. You have to find the people that are going to advocate for you at a time when you can't advocate for yourself. The only way that for me it worked is I had to become my own best advocate and to find that strength to say, okay, if this one doesn't work, I'm just not gonna continue. Um, if you can't advocate for yourself or you don't feel comfortable enough doing that, then having somebody advocate for you, a spouse, a parent, a friend, family, or somebody like that, is hugely important because it's during those times that it's the ones that we're closest to that give us the most support that we need.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
can it can be unbearably painful. It can be unbearably lonely. The loneliness I can't even speak to because if you're running a marathon and you fall and you break your leg or whatever and you've got three other people that do the same thing, you can commiserate together. But when you're a musician and this happens to you, you can't commiserate with somebody because most of the time nobody talks about it, and if they're talking about it, they're not talking about it to fellow musicians. um, it is finding that. For me, at one point, it was I saw the smallest glimmer of hope when the one hand specialist said, here's the thing, the issue is not in the hands. When he said that, and think about that, when we go, the pain, the pain is here. Well, everybody is looking at the hand. It's just like, well, yeah, the nerves seem fine, and the muscles seem fine, and we can do this and that doesn't hurt, and all this sort of stuff. The pain is here, but the hands are connected to the wrist, and the wrist is connected to the forearm, the elbow, and everything like that. When he said the issue is not in the hands, that was the first thing that went, okay, we have a glimmer of some sort of hope. And so you take that and you almost use that as the snowball, right? You start going to other places, and like he said, the issue's not in the hand, so it has to be somewhere else further up. And it's finding that one glimmer of hope, or something that in recent years or in your childhood or early years brought you an immense amount of joy. A memory to find, a memory to hold on to, something that you just focus on that one thing. Just focus on that one thing. I mean, for me, at one point, the most painful procedure that I had done was a spinal tap.
Mm.
And the notion of, a needle going into your back, there's only so much that they can do, to numb out that area, but you're gonna feel the pressure, and it's uncomfortable as all hell get out. And so what I had to do, when I spoke with my counselor the appointment before, said find whatever it is that made you happy, and just hold on to that one thing.
Mm.
Because even holding my spouse's hand, and the doctor was extremely compassionate and said, yeah, I know this is going to hurt and it's going to be terrible, but it's the only way to find out whether this is something that is systemic and that is, in your spine. You have to find that one thing. You have to find that thing that made you happy. You find that sliver of hope, and that's what you hang on to. That almost becomes the keychain that you carry everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. The keychain. But yeah, you have to find when you're in the darkest moments, you have to find that one glimmer of hope, because
Yeah.
that's what it is. Hope. That's why I use the phoenix metaphor a lot. And most people think the phoenix dies, and I go, it doesn't die. It turns to ashes. So we're
Yeah.
all on the same page. But what has always turned the phoenix from the ashes to back into that next bird is a spark of God. And if depending on what your faith is and things like that, we all have that spark from energy of the universe, or spark from God, if that's aligns with you. And I
Mm-hmm.
go, if you believe that you have that, you have to find it, because it's
Yeah.
there. How to find that, and that's what it is by looking for the somebody else to sometimes give it, to lift you up. That doctor saying it's not in the hands is like, what do you mean it's not in my hands? My hands are in pain. But
Yeah.
learning something else is, there's pattern interrupts, but because we need, the reason why they're so effective is because that it makes us think like, huh, what do you mean?
Mm.
Those aha moments are
Yeah.
so powerful because of that. Now, while you've st have you you've fully rebuilt your career, right? You're as healthy as you're gonna, definitely
Knock
not where
on knock
you,
on wood.
yeah, not yeah, of course, not where you were. Are you still going back to China? How many times have you been to China at this point?
I've been back about 6 times since that inaugural tour. Taking on tours is a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment. There's a lot of enjoyment, but like I said, 20 cities in 30 days. There was a stretch there where it was a different city every day, and what that looks like is you get up in the morning, you have breakfast, you fly to the city, you do the setup, you do the sound check, you have dinner, you do the show, you meet the audience, you come back to the hotel, you get ready for the next
Yeah.
day, and you do that 11 days in a row. So by the end of the tour, I mean, I was exhausted from it. Some of the paths back to touring, from where they were before COVID, they're not there anymore. They don't exist, and the company that hired me for those tours, in China owns 75 of the most amazing concert halls that they have in that country. When COVID hit, all of those got closed down, and only 23 have since opened. People aren't
Wow.
going back to the theater like
Right.
they used to. Here in North America, we have the problem where the tickets are so exorbitantly expensive that people who want to go aren't going to, buy a $175 ticket for nosebleed seats if they can't put, food on the table. The other challenge too is that as musicians, and most people don't know this, but streaming doesn't pay well. So when you're listening on Spotify, one stream pays 0.0037 to the artist. That's not enough to sustain it. So your question in terms of going back on tour, my first thing was I wanted to make sure that when I was on the other side of it, I put out an album that was a celebration of the victory of having come out of that arduous journey. And that's what the solo piano collection is. It is the 16 best solo piano pieces that I've written over my career, including pieces that I wrote um, while I wasn't able to play. Pen to iPad still works. And the song that I particularly am proud of on there is called New Beginnings, which is the first song that I played and wrote the first time that I came back to the piano.
Mm.
And what is really special about it too is that the single that came out before the album has artwork on it on the front that has a beautiful sunrise against water. And that is a watercolor painting that I did in art therapy when they said, "What do you imagine your life to be like after you go through this to the other side?" And so when I was thinking of, well, what should the cover for this look like? I remember seeing the painting in my studio and I said, that's what it should be. Because New Beginning is the musical representation of what that artwork is. And so for the first time, I'm sharing music and my painted art in a different way than I had before. So coming back to the piano and playing, um, and being able to enjoy that again has been and continues to be more important than getting back out on stage or getting back out on tour. I will eventually, but for right now, just enjoying life. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying going for coffee with friends and going and cooking again. And when I say I love cooking, I'm talking about, making Julia Child's Biff Bourguignon, the one that takes 6 hours and you have to do it, all the various steps, because at the end of it, when you serve it to family and friends, they go, yum, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's enjoying things like that and the simple things that I couldn't enjoy while I was going through this. I'm still Martin the musician. I'm playing differently. I'm holding my body differently. I'm making different changes. I didn't know that the slightest height adjustment of my piano bench was the difference between there being more pressure on the underside of my thighs of when I'm sitting, which puts more pressure on your lower back, which if you're sitting too high and you have that, you're naturally inclined to lean forward. You take that bench down half an inch to an inch, it takes all of that away and makes all the difference. And I didn't know that you know, until I was literally told, you're sitting too high, you're too hunched over, you should be playing with the strength from your shoulders, not from your hands.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because I was one of my next questions is what have you learned from that? So, not only re-brought you back to cooking and some other hobbies and
Yeah.
painting, but because you're a creative, you're a composer, so you're always thinking. While I'm not talented yet or do that, but I know when I'm writing, there's a million stories. How do I focus on just one and things like that? So, what else do you think has, I guess, enhanced your vision
Yeah.
going forward?
I would say that I take better care of myself. As musicians on tour, we don't always get the best sleep because it's not our mattress and not our pillow. And,
Yeah.
the food on tour, thankfully for me, has always been amazing. So that's never been a problem. But coming back home, it's when I get up in the morning now, it's you have the tea, you have the shower, and you think about anything and everything before you pick up the phone or open the laptop.
Mm,
We are, what is so interesting is that we are the most connected now than we've ever been. and yet we're the loneliest we've ever been. And I know that along this journey, I unfortunately lost some friends, um, which was and still is a difficult thing to learn when people don't know how to support you and can't even fathom the idea um, of even just being there by your side. It takes a lot to learn a lesson that nobody really should in such a difficult journey. But that's part of life, right? Everybody is dealing with something, and we never know what is on the other side of their story. I eat differently. I play differently. I warm up my hands and my body before I play. Um, I cool down after I play. I do stretches. I do exercises. Um, I very much, you know, like I said, enjoy cooking, and cooking even differently now, right? Like when I was going through this, one of the things that I did is working with a dietitian. Maybe the issue isn't all of this. Maybe it is that I have some sort of a intolerance or an allergy that doesn't allow my body to function properly, right? So changing some of the things that I was eating and enjoying things now that before I would be like, you want me to eat what? Oh, avocado toast? Yeah, no thanks. That's not for me. And yet now I can't get enough of it
Yep.
because it gives you a certain, when you understand, like for me, it was about understanding the science of this is what it gives you and this is how it fuels you. And that is the big thing. Um, and everything in moderation. But changing what I eat and how I eat it and taking care of myself makes that big difference. It changes how the body feels so that when something is uncomfortable or the mental health isn't fully working, I can go to my kitchen and I know exactly what kind of tea to have or what kind of soup to make or whatever sort of stuff to nourish myself with so that I'm giving the nourishment to my body or to my mind in order to get me through the day.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're making a lot more intentions, right? That's one of
Yes.
those things is when your intentions are. I mean, I'm the same thing. So I think I shared either on this podcast or before about my heart situation,
Yes. Yeah.
and yeah, I found I used to love making portobello mushrooms for everybody, and I would have needed for anything. Now,
Mm.
once or twice a week, that's what I have for either lunch or dinner or things like that, and. The same thing with avocado toast,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Um, Now, as we're getting closer to rounding up the episode, I have everybody walk into the magic garden, for better or for worse, and to give one piece of advice. So, what's one piece of advice that you would like to share with everybody?
It sort of looks like we had that same
Yeah,
gremlin
yeah.
that came back.
Okay, so we're getting closer to the end of the episode, and I'd love to ask you to step into the magic garden. What is a piece of advice that you can maybe offer up for people who have experienced what have experienced something like that, or
Mm.
even musicians to kind of speak up because that's one of the biggest parts of like mental wellness, but also
Yeah.
physical wellness is we need to speak up and be heard a little bit better.
Yeah, it's sort of that thing of when you think about um, you've got people seated in a room and there's some sort of somebody asks a question, is anybody here from, I don't know, Toronto? And somebody raises their hands or stands up or whatever. And there are people that are reluctant to do that because, when you have one person that stands up and you have another person that stands up, it starts to become easier to stand up
Mm,
with them, right? It can be immensely difficult to be that first person that stands up.
sure.
It can be immensely difficult to be the second, the 15th, the 50th, the whatever. But we only get stronger in numbers. We only get stronger together. And that is the best advice that I can give is share your story, because I guarantee you there are others like you that are going through something or have gone through something. Some of the best self-help books are because people wrote it because they went through something,
Yeah.
right? We have, you know, somebody like Celine Dion who so bravely shared her story in that documentary. That is an incredibly powerful piece to do. That's some that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of mental strength to be able to want to say, I am not okay, and I don't know if I ever will be. Find the courage and the strength to do that for yourself so that you can pay it forward. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just say, yeah, I'm struggling too, is enough for somebody to go, oh, thank God, I don't feel alone.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and I think that's great advice. To make sure that we're never alone, and that's part of the goal of this podcast. Talk about our mental wellness, but also all the other ways that we have to recover and find that resilience. Dig deep into it. So thank
Thank you. It's a pleasure having pleasure being on your podcast, not having you on my
you.
podcast. It's the reverse. I want to play host, right? So thank
Well,
you
if you
for
have a
having me.
podcast, I'd be more than happy. Unless it's about music, I don't have much knowledge other than watching and observing, being the audience member. Uh, how could people find you and the things, your music and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. martinmayer.com is the website. The other one is martinmayermusic.com. One of the things that I also want to say is that if there is somebody that is going through something and wants to talk to somebody, I'm always happy to receive an email and write back. I offer that, unconditionally through my website. I'm
Thank you.
also easily reachable through Facebook and Instagram at I am Martin Mayr. My music is available through my website, but also Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Tidal, and the usual. So thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the knowledge and I now have some things to gonna go reach out and listen to a little bit more and hear it a little bit differently, especially your solo piano collection that you had performed that you put out after. Now that I know your story, it's easier, to listen to something, but to hear things maybe differently. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and everybody else, hopefully you'll have peace and love in your life and bring that as a foundation to everything that you do. And when you bring a bat, remember, bring some awesome thoughts like we heard today. Reach out, speak up, and hit your sweet spot. Thank you so much.